Alright, here we go again. Welcome back, or welcome for the first time, everybody, to the 2andLong podcast. My name is Gabe, and of course, I am joined by Joe. Joe, how you doing today?
I am doing really good. We are going to be off to a fast start today, because it is right now 4:52 on Monday the 24th, and we just had breaking news in the NFL. Gabe, start us off.
Yeah, so we're just sitting here, doing a little pre-podcast chat, and then Joe...
Just BSing.
Joe starts going off talking about James Robinson being traded from the Jags to the Jets for, what was it, conditional six?
A conditional 6th-round pick, which generally means that it's performance-based, whether or not that can move up to a 5th or if it stays at a 6th. But I'm not sure exactly how that would be, since this just happened like a handful of seconds/minutes ago. But this is huge for the Jets, who, as most people know by now, just lost their insane rookie Breece Hall to a torn ACL, just like the other half of the NFL has. And I am so excited for James Robinson. Not just the Jets, but James Robinson as a player. He deserves this.
Yeah, I like it too. The one thing, I was kind of sad because I kind of wanted to see Michael Carter get the full workload and see what he could do as an every down back, and just kind of see what the ceiling was for Michael Carter. But clearly the ceiling for James Robinson, I think, is higher, because James Robinson has, ever since he came into the league as an undrafted free agent to Jacksonville, he's put on a show, and I'm both surprised and not surprised that he's traded. I'm just surprised because I think he's a really talented running back, but the Jaguars also have Travis Etienne, obviously, and JaMychal Hasty also coming out a little bit and making some nice plays for the Jags. So a little bit crowded running back room. I'm sure the Jags just saw an opportunity to make it a little bit less crowded and get something in return, because I would imagine at the end of this year, James Robinson's contract has got to be up. So I'm not 100% sure on that, but that would make the most sense for why they would trade him away at this time of year. So trade deadline also approaching soon too, so that makes sense. But the Jags, who have kind of they started off hot and have kind of fallen into a little slippery slope right here, deciding to be a little bit sellers at the trade deadline instead of buyers, which
right.
Some people, by week 3, I'm sure there were a lot of Jags fans that thought that they would be buyers and playoff team potentially, but what have they lost? 4 straight, maybe 5,
something like that. They have They haven't been looking like the old Jaguars, but they haven't been looking like contenders recently. But you are right, though, with Michael Carter. It would have been cool to see what he could have done. But I feel like the Jets right now are, for the first time in the past decade, very optimistic of their immediate future. And I don't want to go as far as to say that the Jets are in a win-now mode, but with these past, 7 games, they almost are. They almost should be more focused on building their offense to the highest power that they can right now. And if James Robinson even pushes that a little bit, that's huge for them, because it's clear that they do want to still lean on that running attack a little bit, despite Breece Hall going down, and this is going to do that for them. And, one more thing I also want to say. I'm willing to bet this is huge for ETN as well. There's no longer that looming, if you start playing bad, we always have James Robinson. You're, knowing that your job is relatively safe, it does a little bit for a player in terms of their confidence in their spot on the roster, knowing that they're not in danger. That's a bit of a weight off the shoulders for him. So, he's clearly now, for at least the next year or two, their franchise back. And I hope to see more out of him too, now that there's, like you said, that the running back room is less crowded.
Yeah, I definitely agree because coming from a Seahawks fan, for the past like few years, we've had this Chris Carson, Rashad Penny type deal where Chris Carson was getting a lot of the carries, and then Rashad Penny, when he wasn't injured, would get in there every now and then make some nice plays. But overall, because Chris Carson was a more consistent down, like first, second down back, he would play a lot more. So I'm wondering if this is kind of more similar to how Jacksonville was, where you had James Robinson, who was an established back at this point, who was never really like a home run hitter. Like he can make some nice plays to the end zone where he will break a lot of tackles, but more just a consistent type running back where you just give him the ball on first down. You know, he'll at least get you like 4 or 5 yards. Probably won't get you like any 20-yard gains, but you want the more explosive, dynamic guy in there. And so I'm sure a lot of Jags fans are happy about this because they will get to see Travis Etienne in there a lot more, who can make those like game-changing 50-yard touchdown runs. And so I think as a Jags fan, like I'm sure there were a lot of Jags fans that really liked James Robinson and are sad to see him go, but I'm sure there's also an equally large amount of Jags fans that are happy to see the running back room clear up for Travis Etienne to take that next step up as a running back, because you spent a first round pick on him. You want to see those like that investment return, and so I think this is a great opportunity for him to finally return this investment. As this is his first year starting, as he had the injury last season, and so we'll see if Travis Etienne can take a leap after this trade. Now that he will, I assume, get the bulk of the carries. I'm sure Jermichael Hasty will still get in there every now and then.
I can't imagine he wouldn't. I can't imagine a world where Etienne's not getting the majority of the carries. But I also do have a fun fact about Etienne. So far, throughout all 7 games of this year, he has not had more than 15 carries.
Really?
So he also, on top of, now he has the running back room almost to himself. Jermichael Hastings will be a good relief guy, but clearly he's not coming for Etienne's spot. But I'm hoping for Etienne to get like 18, 20 carries a game. I want to see because you remember how insanely good he was at Clemson.
Yeah, it was so he came out in the 2021 draft, I believe. With Trevor Lawrence, and I remember like he almost came out in 2020, and people were talking about him being like a top 15 pick if he came out that year. Went back to college instead, and maybe fell a little bit. But I remember he was always like, whether he came out in 2020 or
players always fall when they go back to college. Players always fall in the draft.
Yeah, it can always be tough. Like I do feel like that is true. It's weird how like you see players fall just for going back, but even if they're just as productive.
Right.
Maybe the hype wears off on them a little bit, possibly, but regardless, Travis Etienne was always that guy at Clemson. Like he was a dynamic runner, very explosive, could catch the ball too. So
even in that last year.
Yeah, so you hope you can see that if you're Jacksonville, and I'm sure Doug Peterson will hopefully find some creative ways to use him. Get him involved more, get him as many touches as you can. You say you want him to take like 20 carries or so, but I want to see maybe like 15, 20 carries and maybe like 5 catches sprinkled in there too, whether that's out of the backfield on screenplays or maybe you even line up.
Oh yeah, I'm saying 20 carries, not counting receptions. I want to see him obviously get the ball in the air too, but I want to see them also pound the ground game and just let Etienne do what he does on top of getting him involved in the air. I want to see him become a focal part of their offense.
Yeah, because I think a lot of people kind of compared him that he could be that Alvin Kamara type back, where even if you're not running the ball with him, he's always a threat in the receiving game. And I think that's what the Jaguars were hoping to get.
It's still possible. He's still very young, even if he didn't, explode right out of the gate. He still has that potential to get there, which, a lot of players, unless it's a quarterback, I feel like people give up on skill positions pretty fast unless you're incredible in your first year or two. And also, Etienne's had an extra year with the playbook not having to play, so, there's no questioning his ability that he knows the offense. And not only does he really know this offense, he knows it standing next to the guy that he's been playing with for 5 years now, all the way even back into college. So that should also give him that extra boast of confidence now that, he is back to the standing that he had in Clemson with his quarterback standing right next to him. He's back to being the main guy.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, don't have to worry about James Robinson no more, or anyone really, because like we've been saying, like JaMychal Hasty's there, but definitely Travis Etienne is now RB1, no more RB1A and B, but
thank God
I think he's officially like the guy down in Jacksonville, and we'll see. Hopefully, he can start to maybe having him play a lot more can kind of turn the Jaguars around a little bit, get them back on track. Hopefully, make Trevor Lawrence's job a little bit easier so he can kind of, because when the Jags were playing well, people were saying Trevor Lawrence is looking like a top 15 quarterback and hasn't quite looked that these past few weeks. But maybe if you can get the run game established, Travis Etienne can break out a little bit. That would make Trevor Lawrence's job a little bit easier. Maybe he can get a little more comfortable and eventually settle into that top 15 quarterback, which he definitely should be. You see the talent that he has, and so he definitely should be a top 15 quarterback, and hopefully he can now with James Robinson. It's weird because James Robinson is out. You're losing an offensive piece, but that could, in a way, upgrade your offense. Even though it was a good offensive piece that you're missing, but you could potentially have an even better offensive piece in the background waiting for his shot. And so, yeah, hopefully we'll see what Travis Etienne can do with his new opportunity.
Funny thought that comes to my head. If Etienne came back this year off of his, I believe it was a torn Achilles, if he came back and underperformed, what if he was the one being traded instead of Robinson?
See, I don't know if you give up on him that. Like, I know you're saying, like, it is true that people
if he was,
give up on players.
Right.
But I don't know if you can give up. I mean, I guess the only thing is you could do that potentially just because he wasn't your first round pick, because Doug Peterson wasn't the guy who made that pick. So maybe if there was, like, that would be the only reason. But I think with someone like Etienne, you do got to give him some sort of time to, like, even if he does play poorly, you got to give him just a little bit more time, I'd say.
Like, this is a talented back. Like, even if he was a little bit more underwhelming at the start of the year, you still got to at least give him a chance.
Yeah, exactly.
It was just a fun theory. We're just having fun. Just a fun theory, floating it out there. Just seeing what comes on back.
But sticking with the AFC South, Joe, do you want to talk about our next topic we got going on here?
Sticking with the AFC South. Why?
Sam Ehlinger for the Colts.
Oh, Lord. Oh, that's right. How could I forget?
This was the second topic you were super excited to talk about.
Okay, this is one topic out of like four that
Yeah, that's true. There's a lot. NFL trade deadline is always an interesting time of the year.
There's a bunch of buzz, bunch of everything going on. But yeah, the Colts have now benched veteran quarterback Matt Ryan in exchange for Sam Ehlinger. I am really interested in this. The Colts haven't really had a young quarterback like this, manning the offense in how long? I mean, they've had Phillip Rivers, they've had Carson Wentz, now they've had Matt Ryan. They've just
Jacoby Brissett too, can't forget.
Yeah, but I don't. Yeah. I guess he would more go into the. How old is Jacoby Brissett actually?
I think he's like, what, 28, 29 right now?
Yeah, so not exactly a young buck.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm saying. I think he was in that category with Carson. Yeah, he's 29 right now. I think he is more in that, like, they played Jacoby Brissett. He was kind of like not established per se, but he came in, played for the Patriots a little bit. But anyway, you're right. But you're right. I think Sam Ehlinger is the first young guy to
They haven't had
step in there.
They haven't had someone under the age of 28 since Andrew Luck as their starter. Yeah. So this is like the first guy that's going to really be in any contention to be a franchise quarterback. Will he be the franchise quarterback? I'm going to say probably not, but this is the first time that a quarterback this young has actually gotten that chance, which to me is really exciting.
You got to look at the fact, too, that they do have Nick Foles on the roster, who Frank Wright is very familiar with, and they decided to go with Sam Ehlinger over Nick Foles, which I think is very interesting.
So what did they see in practice?
Yeah, clearly there's something there. And also, too, they had Jacob Eason that they cut last year, and so they kept Sam Ehlinger over Jacob Eason, who I think both Sam Ehlinger and Jacob Eason were fourth-round picks. I know Jacob Eason was. Sam Ehlinger might have been a fifth-round pick, but
yeah, that was the 2020 draft, right?
2020 draft was Jacob Eason, and I think Sam Ehlinger would have been 2019 draft, because I think Sam Ehlinger might be a little bit older than Jake. I don't think they were the same draft class. They very well might have been. They're around the same age.
Right.
But still, it goes to show that like what they've seen from Sam Ehlinger has clearly been positive. You know, you keep him over someone like Jacob Eason, who has like the physical traits, but clearly mentally it's not there for him.
Yeah.
And so maybe that's what they're thinking. Like, because Sam Ehlinger, I think he can run a little bit, but doesn't have a huge arm. But maybe they do like what they see from him, like in the processing part of the game. Maybe he can like make good reads, and that's just what they're hoping for, clearly. Because I'm looking at Matt Ryan's stats right now. He's thrown for a lot of yards. He's thrown for 2,000 yards thus far, but 9 touchdowns to 9 interceptions. So
he's had a Matt Ryan season.
Yeah.
Matt Ryan does this every year. He throws for a truckload of yards, and he doesn't win games. This every single year. It's the same thing from him.
But, he has one really good game, though. He had one good game against the Jaguars where he put up almost 400 yards.
Congratulations, Matt Ryan. Good job. You had one game out of 7 go well. Great. Wonderful. And what's interesting to me with this specifically is, and what makes Sam Ehlinger so interesting now is if they benched Matt Ryan for a week or two and be like, oh, they just want to give Matt Ryan a break and they just want to try Sam Ehlinger. No, they committed to him for the rest of the season and said that this is going to be their guy going forward. That definitely, like, that's what turns my head to this story, is the fact that despite having not played a game yet this season, or a regular season game yet this season, they are going all in on Sam Ehlinger.
I wonder if we're going to see, like, because we've seen it in Pittsburgh with the Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, where Trubisky was fine. I don't think he was that bad. He wasn't anything great, but they decided to put in Kenny Pickett, and Kenny Pickett has been, I don't want to say worse, but he's just not put up great numbers.
The only thing you can really say is that he's been different.
Yeah, he's
not the same. It's just a taste of something else. Just why not?
But clearly they're sticking with Kenny Pickett. I can't imagine that they would bench Kenny Pickett and put Trubisky back in. So I wonder if the Colts are going to do the same thing with Sam Ehlinger, that even if he does throw 3 interceptions twice in back-to-back weeks, if they're still going to stick by him, or if they will eventually say, okay, you know what? Maybe we rush this a little bit. Let's put Matt Ryan back in there. See if maybe the slice of fire under his ass, and see if he can start to perform like the quarterback that they thought he would when they first traded for him.
You can only hope, really. I mean, that's really what that boils down to. One thing I do want to see, though. What's interesting that you bring up the Pittsburgh comparison with what's going on there is, you know, for that to be more of a quarterback battle, that makes sense. You know, with Trubisky and Kenny Pickett, it's like, okay, yeah. I mean, I guess those two could compete against each other for the starting job. And let's go over the Colts. Okay, we have the really young, mostly young, polished Sam Ehlinger versus the 2016 MVP Matt Ryan, and right now Sam Ehlinger is winning. So
yeah, it should not be a competition at all.
No, this shouldn't be anywhere close. But nope, not only is it close, the young guy's winning?
Yeah. And I wonder if he's only winning because they're tired of Matt Ryan, or if he has really done well in practice to the point where they're like, you know what? Like, we trust Sam Ehlinger. It's not necessarily this is all on Matt Ryan, but it is a little bit on the fact that they do like what they've been seeing out of Sam Ehlinger.
Also, something that I didn't even really think about until just now was if Sam Ehlinger does actually start for the rest of the season and he doesn't do too bad, I think my prediction, this spells the end of Matt Ryan's career and he retires at the end of the year.
I mean, it has to. Like,
you don't take a confidence hit like this and bounce back and go back to your 2016 form and like this is it. Like if
who would sign him, it's the thing too.
Who would take a chance on him? Yeah, Steelers? No. Commanders? Definitely not. It's done. I'm sorry, Matt. You had a great run. You won an MVP. You went to a Super Bowl that we're not going to talk about, and you gotta look around and realize it may or may not be time to hang him up.
Can we just also, real quick, I gotta give some props to the Falcons for trading away Julio and Matt Ryan at almost like the perfect times, because they traded away because Julio went for a second. Did Matt Ryan also go for a second, or not at least a third?
I want to say yes. I want to say that I maybe it was a third. I don't know. But yeah, the Falcons,
that value.
Yeah, they got that whatever capital was left out of those guys, and Julio's been hurt all season, and Matt Ryan just got benched. So those trades looked awful at the time, and now they're not looking too bad. And speaking of not looking too bad, the Falcons also are doing okay for the Falcons.
3-4, like
they're not
crushed the Niners.
Yeah. Like, they're not whooping ass. They're not like the Giants or the Jets. I can't believe I just said that, but they're still overperforming from what most people thought they were going to.
And the division is wide open. I mean, the Bucs.
Oh, it's anybody. Anybody. Who wants it?
Yeah, so the Falcons, because I personally thought the Falcons could end up with the number 1 or 2 overall pick this season, but that's
they could steal the division.
Far from the truth. I think a lot of that goes to, I think Arthur Smith is a very underrated head coach, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah, no, I'd agree. He's been, and also, on top of Arthur Smith being underrated, Mariota has been too. Mariota's been performing very well, as you would know from him being on your fantasy bench for the past several weeks.
I mean, fantasy-wise, he's only had one decent game.
All right.
He's on my bench this week. He didn't have a great fantasy game this week. They didn't win either, so...
Sure,
but
yeah.
Overall, I say Mariota. The Mariota experience has been working well because I know they drafted Desmond Ridder, and a lot of people want to see Desmond Ridder get in there, but I really do think Mariota's kept him at bay, and he hasn't done anything to justify benching him like Matt Ryan has.
And there's no rush. Why rush it? If you have a quarterback like Mariota playing really well, why risk it? Why not just keep developing Ridder and just let him keep working, and then maybe he comes out next year and he's had a year to learn behind a pretty good quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it definitely is possible. Or even, too, if you can... Because Mariota's, 27 still, I think? So, in terms of quarterback, he's still pretty young. So, you could even...
Yeah, he's not ancient yet.
Yeah, you could still say Mariota's still developing. And we've seen both Mariota and Jameis...
I don't know if I'd go that far. I don't know if I would go as far to say that Mariota's still developing. By your, 6th season in the NFL, you should have yourself mostly figured out. I mean, there are exceptions. Geno... But
yeah, you can't say that when we see Geno coming out here and playing well. What if Mario did the exact same thing that
Geno is an outlier. Geno is not the standard, okay? I love it. Don't get me wrong. I love it. That is not something that gets repeated at all. Almost never.
I don't think Mariota will develop to the level that Geno is, but Mariota could be a top 32 quarterback in the league, I'd say. He's definitely not been the worst quarterback out there starting for teams. And so, I mean, if you don't like what you see from Desmond Ridder, if you're the Falcons and he's come into camp and has not been playing that well, you could ride out Mariota and see what he can become. Clearly Arthur Smith likes him.
Oh, yeah, you absolutely
he brought him in, and they worked together in Tennessee. So, clearly there's some sort of connection there. And, if Arthur Smith didn't think Mariota was good, he wouldn't have signed him, and he would have rolled with someone like Desmond Ridder or found someone. But what I'm saying is, I think we've seen Mariota and Jameis Winston both get second chances in the NFL, and I think Mariota's been taking his second chance a lot better than Jameis has.
I think Jameis is blowing his.
Even though he's been injured,
okay, but
he has not been playing well even when he's been out there. It's the thing.
I was gonna say, how long are we gonna keep giving him just like, oh yeah, he's injured, he'll be back, and then he'll throw for 5,000 yards. No. Like,
especially with those receivers that he's got in New Orleans too.
Yeah, which I mean, they've been injured half of the season, but all the same. I mean,
yeah.
Taysom Hill's making something out of it. Come on, Jameis.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't see a great game from Andy Dalton, but I still think, like, Andy Dalton's been better than Jameis Winston. I think Jameis Winston would have had an even worse game against the Cardinals.
Odds are. Yeah, so, I agree.
So I don't think, at this point, I don't know if Jameis can be a top 32 quarterback like Mariota can be. And so I think if you do like what you've seen out of Mariota and you think he can, if you think you can build a playoff caliber team with your draft picks that you're getting, I'd say roll with Mariota and see what you can get out of him.
Why not? What do you have to lose, really? And if he starts doing bad, go to the rookie. But so far, he's not. So there's no reason to change anything. And I'm shocked that they're performing as well as they are with, like, the weapons they have.
Yeah, that's the thing I was going to say, too, is why I think Arthur Smith is an underrated head coach, is minus Kyle Pitts, I think he's doing a really good job at just, like, finding creative ways to use his players. I mean, we've seen Cordell Patterson bounce around to, like, 5 different teams and then find a home in Atlanta and be a, like, really solid running back for them. And we've seen this running game, even with Tyler Algier and Caleb Huntley, like, still playing decent enough to keep them in games without Kyle Pitts. And I just think the creativity that Arthur Smith has and the way he's able to use his players really well. I mean, even the backup tight end is making catches and out there for the Titans. I can't remember his name. I just remember people were complaining about him because he caught a touchdown instead of Kyle Pitts. But that's just that's because the thing is he's been blocking a lot better than Kyle Pitts has. So I think that's, like, the main reason why he's been getting a lot of snaps. And so
that's such a valuable thing for tight ends that I feel like we're getting into an era now of we have way more receiving tight ends than blocking tight ends. But the ability to block as a tight end is so, like, underrated to me. Like, you know, guys like Travis Kelce and George Kittle are two of the best tight ends in the NFL, you know. Travis Kelce, obviously number 1, and George Kittle, somewhere in there. I have no idea where he is now. He could be the 3rd best tight end. He could be the 6th or 7th, because, I don't know, he's not catching the ball. But those two guys take so much pride in their run blocking. And, you know, we do have a lot of, like, you know, the Kyle Pitts, I would even say, like, the Noah Fants of the world. Like, Noah Fant now he feels more like a big receiver. Not that there's anything wrong with it, but I don't know. I haven't seen anything too crazy in the run game from Noah Fant this year, but you would know better than me.
He's been getting better as a run blocker. Like, he obviously came into the league just, like, very raw, like, just super the athletic build tight end like you're talking about. But I think ever since he's come to Seattle, I think he's been taking his run blocking more seriously. Obviously, like, in the Seattle offense, like, Will Disley is the best run blocker, but I think Noah Fant has been improving on his run blocking, and I think that's something that he's been trying to work on instead of just being like, okay, I'm just going to be a tight end that can catch the ball, like, and, you know, make people miss after the tackle. I think he's trying to be a complete tight end. So,
which is great.
Yeah.
Which is great, but obviously that takes time. And speaking of the Seahawks, do we want to talk about this?
Oh, I want to talk about this.
Are you gonna make me talk about this? Okay.
I think so.
All right. Let's rip the Band-Aid off. You get to introduce this because I don't have the heart to.
Okay, so the Seattle Seahawks just beat the Chargers on this past Sunday. Let me look up the exact score. I think it was like 30.
Yeah, elaborate more.
37-23 was the final score of that game. And it was Kenneth Walker, like, just coming out and playing freaking, for the second week in a row, playing some damn good football. constantly making people miss in the open field, breaking away, running 22 miles an hour for a touchdown. Man, this rookie class has been just on fire. And we even got to see
I feel like
Bruce Irvin getting there for the Seahawks this week, which he did draw a holding penalty on him. So Bruce Irvin did do something for all you people that want to say that was a wasted signing. No, Bruce Irvin is out here. He's making plays, as in getting held. But yeah, it's just
he's getting held by the Chargers like fourth string center, and
yeah,
so that's one side of one side. Let me do my introduction. So the Chargers played this weekend, right? And they didn't do too hot. They kind of sort of lost really badly to Geno Smith, and it was 37-23, right?
Yeah.
Is that right?
Yep, 37-23.
Okay, yeah. I just want to make sure that I get that just right on there, and so basically the season's over. That's the nicest way to, yeah. The takeaway is hang them up. It's done. There's no hope.
Hey, at least you have your first round pick, unlike some team in your division.
Yeah, whoopee. Yeah, we're gonna have the 5th overall pick this year, so there's something to look forward to. So, getting into this. We really just underperformed on both sides of the ball. J.C. Jackson, Mike Williams, and probably 5 or 10 other guys I'm not thinking about are all out for multiple weeks or the season. And what this loss really boiled down to was it's how we've been performing all year. Nothing really changed from this week to the past 3. We've been playing right around the same level of football. We haven't elevated at all. And through this stagnant progress of the overall team, we've also been losing key players left and right, on top of Herbert standing in there through a rib injury, standing behind a line of whoever the Chargers can sign that's over 300 pounds. And we're now throwing to Keenan Allen and whoever can catch a ball. We are down Mike Williams. We are down Jalen Guyton. We were out Keenan Allen for most of this season up until yesterday. It's looking pretty grim the rest of this season. But we do have a bye right now. There is a smidge of hope, given that we have a week to look at the past about 4 weeks and go, what the actual hell happened? And if you go to any Chargers social media at all, Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, they're all calling for the heads of Joe Lombardi, the Chargers offensive coordinator, and Brandon Staley. And I think they're completely in their right to do so. The offense has been simple. Teams have been able to dissect the offense before we even get our plays off. Brandon Staley making questionable calls. It's been a hard few weeks.
Yeah,
All right, now you get to jump up and down about Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker playing like Hall of Famers. So yeah, let's go to that instead. Let's talk about something that doesn't make me want to go back on antidepressants. Let's go right into the Seahawks. All right.
I think something...
Take it from here.
Something big that was important to look at this game was, I think, the big separator was coaching in this game. Because I really do think Brandon Staley's got to go. You got to bring in...
100%.
You got to bring in an offensive mind, really. Because, I mean, he's supposed to be a defensive guy, but the run defense just hasn't been good. And I think, like, you have players that can stop the run, but it's just, for whatever reason, it's just not working. Like, Kenneth Walker got, I think, 168 yards on the ground. Also,
I want to say it was in the 170s. I thought
it was 168.
Or maybe that was total yards.
Yeah.
Maybe that was total yards. I'm not sure. Either way, he owned he owned the Chargers.
I mean, we even saw DJ
yesterday.
Dallas get in there and make a nice couple runs as well. So I just think something's up with that defense. And I also think for the Seahawks side too, like, I think Pete Carroll's got to be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. I know Brian Daboll's...
I agree.
Yeah, Brian Daboll's doing some nice things in New York, and this will be an interesting test this next week. We actually do get to see the Seahawks play the Giants, so we'll see, kind of get a feel of, like, which one of those teams that are overachieving, like, is more legit than the other, I guess. But I really do think, like, people thought the Seahawks would be an absolute dumpster fire this year. Like, so many people said that the quarterback competition between Geno Smith and Drew Lock was, like, one of the worst we've ever seen. And now you look at it, Geno Smith is playing like a top 10 quarterback, potential MVP candidate. Like, even, I think at this rate, like, you could even dangle Drew Lock in front of the Broncos' face and see if they trade for him back.
Hey, do you guys want him back?
We'll take another pick.
Yeah.
But
how about you just hand over Jerry Jeudy and we give you your original draft. Imagine how awkward that would be, Drew Lock landing in Denver again. Just, oh god, this guy's back.
The quarterback competition between Russell Wilson, Brett Rippey, and Drew Lock.
And somehow Russell's losing.
But really, I mean, I think Pete Carroll should be in the conversation for Coach of the Year. You look at this rookie class, you got Tariq Woolen and Kobe Bryant playing great in that secondary. Obviously, the two tackles and Charles Cross and Abe Lucas are playing great. Kenneth Walker coming onto the scene and playing great. But even you look, too, at the secondary, like with Jamal Adams went down. Ryan Neal comes out, plays an amazing game. I think he had a, 92 grade for Pro Football Focus. And also other plays, too. Like, you see Gabe Jackson's down with injury. Phil Haynes fills in our right guard. And also, I think he had, an 80-something grade for PFF, which, for those who don't know, a 90-plus for PFF is elite. And the 80 to 89 is, a really, solid, really great game. So Phil Haynes has been coming in. The offense has been better with Phil Haynes in there. So I think even when Gabe Jackson's back, I don't think you play him. Maybe keep him around just for injury purposes, but man.
No, the Seahawks as a team have mastered the mentality of next man up.
Yeah.
Which as someone that wants to go into coaching, really, it really warms my, I know I'm talking really passionately about this, but it warms my heart to see how willing these guys are to step up and perform for their team. Take Marquise Goodwin.
Exactly.
2 receiving touchdowns after not really doing all that much in the past, 2-3 years even? Once he left San Francisco, he's more or less been dormant for however long, and DK goes down with his patellar tendon injury, which also happy to hear that that's not serious.
Yeah, that's
I would have hated to have more superstars go down this year, but yeah, to see him step up, get 2 receiving touchdowns, even though obviously it was on my guys, it was on their heads, it was nice to see that, he still has something left in the tank, and, all those other guys that you were just talking about, all like Ryan Neal, Jamal Adams goes down, all right, next man up, go fill his shoes. And he goes, and I would say even outperforms him in a few areas.
Oh, yeah, that was an overall great game by Ryan Neal. Had a pick, had 7 tackles, just an overall great game by Ryan Neal. And also going back to Marquise Goodwin, not only did he have 2 receiving touchdowns, but his second touchdown catch was really impressive. He got up there, and you could see he was
up.
He was, I think. Was he an Olympic athlete for long jump? I know he
was a long jumper.
Yeah, he made a long jump. And so you see the hops there. And also, too, there was one play that was called back because D. Eskridge decided to, I think it was called pass interference because D. Eskridge was blocking before the ball was caught, who D. Eskridge did not have a good game at all. But Marquise Goodwin, he caught a screen pass and just, you saw the speed. He just took off and got 15 yards, but I mean, he was running, and he was running hard, too. He was running through tackles, and it was a shame that play was called back, because it was just really impressive. So, like you're saying, the Seahawks have really adopted the next man up mentality, and it's been playing well. When one guy goes down, another guy is stepping up, and it's like he never left.
Yeah. It's like no one ever left. It's full willingness to take a big part of the offense, while also not being at all selfish. Like, this isn't like, I don't know, an Antonio Brown situation where, like Marquise Goodwin's out there. It's like, why don't you get me the rock? It's like, no, it's like, DK went down and I'm going to try to get open for you. If I'm not, that's fine, but I'm going to try and just fill his spot. And he did. And also, you were talking about Pete Carroll a few minutes ago, and one thing I want to bring up that he did that, like, I was like, that is, like, something for me that made me think Coach of the Year was Geno was early, in the first half. Yeah, you already know what I'm talking about. But
I think it's the second half, I'm pretty sure.
It might have been the second half. I'm not sure. I was
a
little... Getting into the second half, I was a little bit more in and out of the game.
Yeah.
So, give me a second. But, so, at some point in the game, probably the second half, Geno was really getting into it with one of the refs. I forget what the call was.
It was
but
the phantom false start.
Oh, yeah. And, yeah, as a Chargers fan, yeah, there wasn't a false start. That was just a center being a center. But, and then Geno went in and... this is what, honestly, I think this helped Geno do this, was as Geno was really starting to, like, he was trying to argue with the ref. He was trying to get the ref to turn around, and he was trying to argue with him. Pete Carroll runs in, calls him off, Geno. And Geno looks at him, and Pete Carroll, all he does is, like, a hand motion to his chest. And in no words, he was able to exactly get the point across of you gotta keep your composure.
Yeah, exactly.
This is adversity. You can't let it get to you. Calm down. This happens. Go and make the next play.
Yeah, because the thing is, it was both Pete Carroll and Geno were like in the ear with the ref, and so the thing that was impressive to me was to see, even though Pete Carroll was like hot and getting fired up, he was still like, okay, Geno, like, let me handle this. You calm down, do your thing. Like, I'll handle this. And so it's impressive to me because Pete Carroll doesn't like continue to scream at the ref and like ignore Geno or even be like, yeah, Geno, like, let's both get in at this guy. He's like, Geno, like, calm down. And then Geno goes out in 3rd and 10. And I'm pretty sure it was the second half because the Seahawks were...
That was the play to Lockett. That was the amazing... That was the perfect throw to Lockett.
Yeah.
Like, they played that from a few different angles. And I'm like, if he threw it in any other spot, that's an incompletion. But it was a perfect throw. Geno got really hyped up, and I'm pretty sure they scored on that drive, didn't they?
I believe so, yeah, because the thing that was important about that drive is the Seahawks were already up, but we're trying to, like, shoot some clock and put the game away, and so that really helped to, like, move the chains.
Which he did.
And honestly, like, you see stuff that Geno's making these things, you didn't really see much of Russ doing that. Like, there were a lot of 3rd down fails and, like, lost plays that were always blamed on everyone else. But the more and more we watch Geno play, the more and more it's clear that was a lot of Russell's fault. Like, all those things, it's just Russ was just not hitting his guys where he needed to. Because I think when that throw to Tyler Lockett happened, the camera, like, kind of got confused because there was another receiver running. I think it might have been Goodwin. I can't quite remember, but looked like he was running like a post route or something, but he was like 10 yards behind Lockett basically. And so when the ball was first thrown, like, the camera kind of started panning over to that deep guy, but it ended up being converted to Lockett. And so I think that was something that was interesting for me too, because he could have, like, tried to force it deeper to Marquise Goodwin, but he decided he saw Tyler Lockett was open enough, and he figured, I'm just going to take the first down. Like, this is a crucial 3rd down, and he didn't, like, he kind of forced it in a way, but he knew he could make that throw, and he made it, and it was a great catch by Lockett. Like, Lockett's one of the guys you can trust on offense, especially with DK not in the on the field. So
totally.
I think that was impressive too, because I think if Russ, is in that situation, we might see him roll out, try to hit that guy deep, and then something crazy happen, or he gets sacked or something. So that was just really impressive to me to see Geno go out there, make the right read, make a good throw, and move the chains in a crucial spot.
And you know what really stood out to me after that play specifically that I never saw from Russ in Seattle, and we're going to keep talking about these two because we can't help ourselves every single week. We have to have a 5-hour segment of us talking about Geno Smith versus Russell Wilson. But something that I saw that I loved was Geno was pumping his fist. He was, let's go, let's effing go. And he was getting so fired up. He was there to compete. Russell would have been completely deadpan after that throw. He would have shown no emotion. Just, all right, back to the huddle. I'm amazing.
Yeah,
I know.
Russell's a really, positive guy, which has, had some good influence to the offense. But you're right, stuff like that, he doesn't, Russ is good.
Is Russell positive?
Well,
I mean, he's I was going to say, he's, well, even back then, it was almost like he was a quarterback's version of positive. Mm-hmm. All right, yeah, Russell was a guy that when he threw an interception, you'd be like, it's just one interception, and he'll bounce back. But it was just because he had complete, control over those emotions. And now it's like there's almost nothing left when it comes to Russ. And to see Geno fired up after making a huge play in a big moment in the game, that made me feel so good for the Seahawks as a franchise. It's I don't know if Geno's going to be their long-term answer, but he is a damn good fit right now. Yeah. And I am willing to bet that after this, he'll retire a Seahawk.
I certainly hope so. I think there's a couple different routes you can take with Geno. I think, personally, my favorite route is you sign him to a 2-year contract and you draft Anthony Richardson in the first round because Anthony Richardson has so much physical upside and needs time to develop. So you give him 2 years to develop. And in a couple years' time, the physical traits might start wearing on Geno. But the thing is, too, that's so interesting to me is I don't know how long Geno can play because of the fact that he took such a long time off between starts. And so maybe he can, if he was supposed to be able to play until he's 34, maybe he can play until he's 36 now, 37 because of that rest period. And I think Geno is really, passionate about the game of football. He clearly likes to play football for football. I don't think he does it just for the money or the fame like some other players do.
If he did it just for that, he wouldn't be in the league anymore.
Exactly, yeah, because he's
most players retire. Right, yeah, most players, just statistically, most players, I'm pretty sure, retire before, the age of 25.
Mm-hmm. And so, it's really
a heavy majority retire before 25, and he's gone all the way up to now, having almost no success outside of this year. Mm-hmm. Yeah, he's in it for the long haul as long as he can.
Yeah, so I would love to see, and I think I've heard, Pete and John have started talking to Geno about an extension, which I think we gotta get going because the more he keeps playing like this, the more expensive he's gonna get. So, but I'm also
he's gonna get $100 million contract.
But I'm also curious too, just seeing the type of person Geno is. I wonder if he will take a more friendly contract for the team. I mean, that's obviously my hope is what he does because that's what I've been saying Russ should have done for the past 5 years in Seattle. Is Russ would always complain about his offensive line not doing well. I'm like, okay, just take less money and we can go and pay some offensive linemen. But I really do think Geno Smith might sign a $20 to $25 million a year, which for a quarterback is not too bad, especially if he.
I could see him signing a $15 million a year. I think
nice
Geno.
Too, obviously.
Yeah, I think it'd be really hard for him just in negotiations to make a case for anything more than that, given obviously he's been doing amazing this year, but when you're going to contracts, you have to consider everything.
Yeah.
You have to consider your whole performance, not just 1 year. And that's to say, I hope he does get a $15 million, because I think he should, even, that's me looking at the realism of contract negotiations in the NFL is, they're very business oriented, but I think he should be well rewarded for the play that he's been giving the Seahawks. He deserves that for sure.
Yeah, and I threw out 20 to 25 mil because I think that was about the contract that Ryan Tannehill signed after he had his really good year with the Titans, and so that's what I was kind of thinking. That's what I was
basing that off of. Okay.
Yeah, so I think because I think that's
when you put
a fair, somewhat comparable recent situation, So
right now he's definitely better than Tannehill, though.
Oh yeah, and even when
no doubt,
even when Tannehill had his best year or two, Geno's been playing better than that. So
Definitely.
Definitely well deserved.
If you told me at the start of the season that by week 7 I'd be getting ready to write a love letter to Geno Smith, yeah, I would have called you just batshit insane.
He's been impressive, and also I love too is so we just played the Chargers, who Geno played for a year, so little revenge game for Geno. We also play the Giants next week, another revenge game for Geno, because after he went with the Jets, he played for the Giants, and then sometime in mid-December.
Is Geno gonna go dismantle every team that he's played against throughout his career?
I hope so, because we also play the Jets in December as well. So the 3 teams that he used to play for, he's playing in this season, which is just crazy how that all lined up because of like the way the scheduling works. It's just a huge coincidence that it lined up this way, which I just think is awesome.
Just something else that's really funny to think about. Also, if you told me at the start of the season that by week 8 that Seahawks Giants is primetime football,
yeah,
and that the Buccaneers or Packers aren't even really worth watching,
yeah, that's got to be flex. Like the Seahawks are going to play the Bucs in Germany, and the Seahawks are going to be favored in that game, which is just hilarious to me.
Yeah, Tom Brady, Mike Evans, Leonard Fournette. Nope, Geno Smith and Kenneth Walker.
And Marquise Goodwin.
Take that. Yep, that's the trio. that's the band of boys that's going to go get it done.
But they've been getting it done.
Despite all of it.
But, yeah, and Seahawks sitting in first place in the NFC West, but the Niners just losing to the Kansas City Chiefs. But I do want to talk real quick about this trade that the Niners made, this blockbuster trade.
You can't help but talk about it, right? I mean, how do you not?
Yeah, so the Niners, I believe it was a 2nd, 3rd, and 4th this year, and then a 5th next year. So 2, 3, 4 for 2023 NFL draft, and then a 2024 NFL 5th round pick for the Panthers, Christian McCaffrey. Which is just, I as a Seahawks fan, I love it because the Niners have like no picks until the 5th round this year because they already are losing their 1st round pick thanks to the Trey Lance trade, and then they just get rid of everything else they
I forgot about that.
For an injury-prone running back who's going to a head coach that's known for kind of beating down on his running
abusing
back.
His players.
Yeah, players get like Kyle Shanahan just has. He's a genius.
Debo was gonna leave. Debo was going to leave.
Yeah, because he said, like, I'm being used too much. Like, I'll come stay if I don't get...
Yeah, and I mean, now that they have McCaffrey, they can absolutely do without those touches by Debo at running back. You have him, you have Jeff Wilson, you have Elijah Mitchell. Why would you do that to Debo if you don't have to? And that will be the big thing, is that if he does stay healthy, I feel like this could very well end up like we could be looking back on this and thinking that was a home run for the 49ers if he stays healthy. They did pretty much sacrifice next year's draft to get this man, but it... Yeah, that's true. Okay, well, the Herschel Walker trade was just like, okay, everybody, the draft matters. That's what that was. That was a reassessment of history. Just like, okay, so we are gonna focus on drafting. Okay, but I'm trying to think about if there have been any like recent really big running back trades. None come to the top of my head, but. True. Also, can we talk about how the Panthers are quote unquote blowing it all up and then go and beat Tom Brady and the Buccaneers with PJ Walker and Chuba Hubbard? Can we shed a little light on that? And because in my opinion, that says way more about the Buccaneers than it does the Panthers. I think, in my mind, I feel like the Panthers got away with one, but God. Do you think the Panthers always had this in them? Yeah. I've seen some that have said it's a done deal that he's going to be gone by the deadline. Right. Right. Brian Burns, yeah, I was gonna make sure that you talked about Brian Burns. And has room to grow. Well, they held Tom Brady to 3 points, so they're clearly doing something right. Congratulations, it's 21-10. Good job. I also don't trust them in Carolina. I don't trust rookies in Carolina either, unless your name ends in Newton and you're giant. I just don't trust it. But also, I don't know if you saw this or not. This just you talking about Mike Evans just reminded me of this. But after the game, Mike Evans was heading into the tunnel, and two of the refs were like, "Mike, Mike, Mike," and they run up behind him, and they got stuff autographed by Mike Evans, and the NFL is now investigating that. Yeah, what? Guys, what the hell? I don't care if if your nephew was like, "Oh my god, Mike Evans is my favorite player, can you give me some?" You no. The answer to that, can you get something signed by Mike Evans? The answer is no. So, no, you're out there in black and white to show the fact that you are completely unbiased. That's why refs don't wear any colors. Because to show that they are in no way affiliated with the teams or the players. It's the same thing with I don't know. The NBA does it differently. On the NBA's their app, when watching a game, you can pick whether you want your broadcasters that you're listening to be broadcasters for the home or the away team. Which I think if the NFL implemented that would be really cool. The radio stations do. The radio stations do. Yeah. So that's, most, actual broadcasters, in the NFL are, for the most part, unbiased. The only one I don't think is anytime that that a Chiefs game is on, you know that Tony Romo is there, and he is verbally blowing that man. Because he can't help himself. It's like, this guy has to have a picture of Patrick Mahomes just in his bathroom, and he just, like, points to him, like, before he leaves for his day, like, it's for you, man. Yeah. It's like when Tony Romo points into the sky, he's not pointing at God. He's hopefully pointing at Patrick Mahomes. Wherever he is out there. The refs, get autographs from... It's absurd. Is the only word that fits. Oh yeah, no, I'd totally be like, I don't know how I wouldn't be one of those like insider trading refs, like that the basketball documentary on Netflix of like the refs palming on Allen Iverson, or like, hey, bet Utah. Like I would totally be like Chargers Chiefs, like, hey, like Orlando Brown really loves holding around the back. Yeah, I'm calling all of those. Like, I don't know, like, it really is such a hard job, and I don't know who would want that? Who would want to be a ref? That they're all doing it. Yeah. Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean you have to. And also, was it weird to you at all that it was two of them and not just one? Yeah. Like, if it was just one, it's like, oh, that ref went rogue. It's like, no, two of them chased him down after the game. And then during the game, it's like, offensive pass interference, one offensive pass interference, defense. Like... Yeah. No, that could, like, what if stuff like that has already happened? Like, refs were just all in on, like, you know, what comes to the top of my head is the Rams-Saints NFC Championship, of that blatant pass interference that somehow 4 guys missed, and none of them felt the need to call it. What if this is just a thing that just nobody really pays attention to, and we just sum it up to bad reffing versus, no, these guys have a stake in the game. Or they have emotions towards it that makes them want to swing it one way versus another. It's like, oh, we already called it. Well, and they called it on the center. They called it on the center, who I can't. What's his name? Yeah, the first thing is, that's stupid that the false start is on the center because, hey, guess what? That's the only guy that really can't unless he like jiggles the ball, which he didn't. So there's just, yeah. No, I know. I knew seeing that you'd be sick to your stomach. There's never not going to be a problem with refs, but I don't know if you. Well, obviously you remember, like a few years ago, they brought in a rule to challenge pass interference calls, which I don't think was the answer at all. You know what they should? Yeah, what I feel like they could do is sort of that automatic system that call it like this has been brought up a lot with roughing the passer, but I feel like you could get away with doing it in the NFL too. Is in college, like in targeting, like with targeting calls, it's immediately reviewed to make sure because in college targeting you're immediately thrown out of the game, so you have to be sure that the play was targeting. Why not do that with like pass interference? Just like pass interference defense number blah blah blah. This play is under further review. And I just because I feel like you could check and in like 10 seconds be sure. You could see it one or two more times and be completely definitive whether or not something is pass interference or not. It's spot of the foul. Yeah, or like if you're on like the 30 and you chuck it and it somehow makes it to the end zone and your defender like clips him a little bit, it's up pass interference. Okay, now it's on the 1. Now we're sending out the goal line unit. We're sending out 3 tight ends instead of Will Disley just out there by himself. No, everybody get in there. We're pounding this on the 1. It's no longer like you're developing a drive. And or like in college, like when that happens, you're on the 30, it makes it to the end zone. It's like 15 yards. Okay, go back to the drawing board. Okay, now we're at about the 50. Now we're working on our middle of the midfield offense. No, goal line. We're scoring. No doubt. Yeah. I don't know about you. This whole year has been bogged down by two things. It's been bogged down by really bad reffing and rampant injuries. That's this whole year summed up in two things. It's no one can stay healthy, which a lot of people want to immediately blame the turf fields. And I do agree that that has something to do with it. But I have another theory if you're interested in it at all. So also for a little bit of context for all the listeners out there, I am in college as an exercise science major. So my theory behind a lot of these new injuries is that in today's NFL, just about every player is superhuman in regards to their strength and power that they are able to generate. And throughout the past 20 years, we are seeing players playing at a caliber that we have not seen anywhere close to in the NFL's existence. Players have never been this strong or fast, and combine that with this turf, tendons and ligaments, just in their natural state, you can train them to take certain amounts of beating, but they're not. You can't make them invincible. And if all of these guys have the strength to put these tendons, ligaments, and in a lot of these cases, muscles even, which are supposed to be able to take even more than tendons and ligaments in terms of just general stretch, I feel like as the NFL has been going, I almost think players are too strong. And that's not a fixable issue either. But I honestly think we're getting to a point in the NFL where it's every year is going to be like this. I don't know if we're going to be able to stop players getting hurt this much. Obviously, going from turf fields to grass fields would help. It would help a lot of these non-contact injuries go down, but the Aaron Donalds of the world, the Derwin Jameses, the Bobby Wagners, the Derrick Henrys, just we are seeing players so powerful that you can't do enough to prevent injury when you're hitting these guys. It's almost not possible. Just about, yeah. I mean, guys like Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers have been able to weather the storm and for the most part stay healthy. I mean, even 10 years ago, Tom Brady tore his ACL. You don't make it out of the NFL without an injury, and that's a part of why these guys get paid so much is because permanent injury is almost inevitable. And especially nowadays, I mean, a torn ACL is about a year recovery on average. And this goes for, if a guy like, I don't know, just give me someone random that's torn their ACL this year. Oh, OBJ. Sure, yeah. OBJ tears his ACL. A construction worker that's carrying, really heavy, concrete bags, steps on the ground wrong, tears his ACL. The recovery is going to be similar. The recovery time is not going to be too much different. It's going to be a little different, obviously, because Odell has more resources than the construction worker by a mile. But, they're all still the same, the same ligaments. They're still the same tendons. People aren't built any differently from each other. Obviously, genetics play into it a little bit, but players nowadays, like you said, they're almost too strong for their own good. And that isn't something that we can backpedal from because we're overall type of people that love progress. So and progress in the world of strength is something that the NFL has down to a T. I mean, take J.J. Watt. He has a 10,000 calorie diet and can squat 700 pounds. And that's just one extreme example, but most DNs in the NFL aren't too far off from that. Yeah, and even the guys that aren't on the receiving end of that strength and power, they're not the only ones in danger. Overtraining is a very real thing. You can only condition your body so much to be able to take all of these blows. And this is something that I've actually been thinking about for a few years is anatomically and physically, is the NFL getting too ahead of itself in something that can't be backpedaled on? And, I do think grass fields, like I said before, grass fields being implemented would help. No shadow of a doubt of that. But what do you think about this theory? Because I feel like it does hold a little bit of ground. Yeah. Why wouldn't you? Why wouldn't you? Well, also well, there are a few NFL domes. I can't think of any at the top of my head. I Woo! Okay. Dodge that bullet. But I was just trying to think about, like, I think there are a few domes and stuff in the NFL that open and close. And those fields, I think, are also some that there should be no question that they should have grass fields. But yeah, I think this is just, I don't know. It's a cool theory to me to think about, because I don't think anyone else really has ever really talked about that angle. Or at least if they have, I haven't found it. Of just NFL players being too strong. Because, I mean, think about this, too. Like, think about the past. Jerry Rice played until he was 42. Randy Moss played until, 2013? Had like a 15-year career or something like that. Like, really, most guys in the past, unless, concussions in the past were, rampant. But when it came to, like, ACLs and PCLs, meniscus injuries, Achilles injuries, these were not the most common, like, these injuries happened in the past, not nearly at the rate that they do now. And a part of that, and you can only attribute so much of that to turf, because we've had turf since, like, the early mid 2000s. Like, turf got to be more common, so it's not just turf. That's not that's a part of it, but that's not the crux of the problem. And to me, in my opinion, one of the big problems is these players are way too powerful, and they're all this powerful now. And that, to me, is what makes the difference, is that, if you had an Aaron Donald or like Quentin Nelson, like just a couple really heavy hitters, then it wouldn't be as big of a deal. It's everybody. Everybody in the NFL is this strong. Like, and we can probably wrap it up after this topic too. We've been going for an hour and 17 minutes here. But take a guy like Austin Eckler. Austin Eckler he's about my size. He's about 5'10", about. And I saw a video of him about a year ago squatting about 500 pounds for reps. To do that at this size, to do it at his size in the world outside of sports is unheard of. That just doesn't really happen in any circumstance. Yeah. And then you want him to go and sprint for 3 hours into guys that can also do that. And what, his knee is just supposed to hold up? So, I think it's an interesting theory, but, yeah. For right now, that's all it is. It's just a theory. A game theory! I'm sorry. I've been talking so serious for like 10 minutes, and I'm like, okay, I need to put something in there. All right, we feeling good about this one? All right, well, thank you. I've had that one that one's been ready for a while. It's something I don't really get a chance to talk about anywhere else. So hey, I got it out there. So in 5 years, when we don't have an NFL because everyone has a torn Achilles and a torn ACL, they can come and tune in here. You heard it here first. All right, ready to close up? All right. Thank you, everybody, for listening. If you're still here, thank you so much. If you want to go ahead, give us a follow over on Instagram at 2andLong Football Podcast and over on TikTok at 2andLong. We really appreciate that. Thank you guys for tuning in. I'm Joe. And we will see you guys in the next one.